Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to cover a very simple SQL interview question, which is what is the difference between lag and lead window functions in SQL? Okay, so you will be given one table, okay, and then you will be asked to apply the lag and lead function on this table, okay. So let's start. So what is lag and lead? Okay. So lag returns the value from the previous row and lead returns the value from the next row. Okay. So as you can see, both are opposite of each other. Okay. So let's apply this lag and lead on this table. Okay. And understand it. So let's say I have this table which is having this numbers column. Okay. Now let's say I want to apply lag function first. Okay. So as you can see from the definition, right, it returns the value from the previous row. Okay. So just let me start from the bottom here. Okay. So here you can see, right, for 50, what is the previous row value? It is 40, right? So this lag function will assign 40 value to this 50 number. Okay. Now for 40, what is the previous value? It is 30, right? So for 40, the lag of this value will become 30. Okay. Now for 30, what is the previous value? It is 20. So it will get 20 assigned. Okay. For 20, it is 10. Now for 10, I don't have any previous row here. Okay. So by default, it will assign null value. Okay. So as you can see, right, this is how lag function will work on this table. Okay. So we did nothing actually. We were just picking up the previous row value. For 50, we picked the previous row value. It was 40. And similarly, we picked for the other elements here, right? So that's how the lag function works. Okay. Now let's move to the lead one. Okay. So for lead, it returns the value from the next row, right? So for 10, what is the next row value? It is 20, right? So it will assign 20. For 20, what is the next row value? It is 30, right? So it will assign 30. For 30, what is the next row value? It is 40, right? Similarly, for 40, it is 50, right? Now for 50, I don't have any row which is having another value, right? So it will assign null. Okay. So that's how this lead function will work on this data. Okay. So I hope you are able to get it right. Whenever you apply lag function, it will pick the value from the previous row. Okay. So for this row 50, what is the previous row value? 40. So it got assigned, right? Similarly, in read function, it will pick the value from the next row. Okay. So for 10, what was the next row value? It was 20, right? So that's why 20 got assigned. Okay. So that's how on the high level lag and lead works. Okay. So this is the default nature, okay, that I explained you. Lag will always work on the previous row and lead will always work on the next row, okay. But let's say there can be a requirement, okay. And instead of looking at the previous row and the next row, let's say for lag, I want to look at the previous two rows, okay. Now for 50, I don't want to fetch this 40 value. I want to fetch the value of 30. So how can I assign this 30 value to this 50, okay. So for that, how you can do it? You can use the option of offset. Okay, so you can apply the offset in this lag function. Okay, so let me just quickly do it. Okay, so basically, how the syntax look like inside lag, you will have first give the column name, and then you can tell like so here I want to fetch the from the previous two rows. Okay, so I can define the number here. Okay, so what it will do now, it will pick the values from the previous two rows. Okay, the similarly I can do for lead also. Okay, now I don't want to fetch the value from the next row, I want to fetch the value from the next two rows. Okay, so now for 10, I don't want to fetch the value from the next row, that is 20. I want to fetch the value from the next row, that is 30. So I want to assign this 30 value to 10. Okay, so how you can do it? You can use the option called offset. Okay, so you can basically define the value here. So basically offset tells from previous how many previous rows or how many next rows you want to fetch the value. So you can define the number here. Okay, it can be anything depending on your requirement. You if you want to fetch the value from the next three rows or previous three rows, you can give three here. Okay, so let's see what will be the output in this case. Okay, so here for 50, what is the previous two rows value? It is 30, right? So it will assign 30. Okay, now for 40, what is the previous two rows value? It is 20. Okay, for 30, what is the previous two rows value? It is 10. Now for 20, I don't have previous two rows data available. I only have one row data. But I am looking for two rows data, right? So it will assign null here by default. For 10, obviously I don't have sufficient data, so it will assign null. Okay. So that's how this will work in this case, right? So now let's go and see how lead will work in this case. Okay. So now I'm looking for the next two rows data now, right? So what is the next two rows data for 10? It is 30, right? For 20, what is the next two rows data? It is 40, right? For 30, it is 50, right? Now for 40, I don't have the sufficient data available. I just have only one row, but I am looking for two rows. So it will assign null. For 50 also it will assign null, right? So that's how this will work, right? So I hope you are able to get it right. So based on your requirement, whether you want to fetch the data from previous two rows or next two rows, it you can define it, okay? But that is a optional one, okay? That is not mandatory, okay? So based on requirement, you can define it, okay? So now let's come to the next thing, okay? So as you can see, right, for the not available data, I am getting the null values, right? Let's say instead of null, I want to define some default value. So how can I do that? For example, instead of null here, I want 0. Okay. Similarly here. Okay. So what you can do, you can give the default value here. Okay. So basically, you can say comma 0 here, and then also you can give your default value whatever you want to give. So it will give the default value automatically. Okay. So I hope you are able to get this. Okay. So now let me go to the Databricks. Okay, and we will try to execute this in the Databricks on the same data. So I have this create table statement and insert table statement, okay, and I already have this table created, okay. So as you can see, whatever I was explaining in the Excel, right, this is the syntax, okay, of lag and lead. You will pass the column name, and then you will pass the offset and default value, but those are optional, okay. So what is the offset? It tells how many rows before and after you are looking for, okay. So default value is again the one instead of null. If you want to pass some default value, you can pass it, okay. But these two are optional, okay. Just remember, okay. And then after it, obviously you have this over keyword where inside you will pass the partition by and the order by, okay. So let's start there, okay. So here, let's say I already have this table created. Now I want to apply the lag function. So what is the syntax? I will say lag, and inside that I will pass the column name, okay, and then I will pass the over keyword. Here, since I am not working on the partition data, so I will simply say order by column, okay, order by column, and I will just give some alias name to this. Let's say previous number, okay. The same I can do for lead also, right? Okay, let me just do it quickly. Instead of lag I will say lead, okay, and I will just give some different alias name next number, okay. Let me just execute this and see. So you can see, right, it is working as expected, right? Whatever I explained in the Excel, right? So we are getting the previous number data and the next number data, right? But now let's say instead of just looking at the previous row and the next row, I want to fetch the data from the previous two rows and the next two rows. Okay. So what I can do inside after column name, I can define the offset, right? I want to fetch from two previous two rows, so I will just say 2 comma 2, and from the next rows I will say comma 2, right? Now let me just execute and see, are we getting the result or not? Yeah, we are getting it, right? For 50 we are getting 30, and here for 10 we are getting 30. So it means it is working, okay. Now let's say instead of null I want to assign some default value, okay. So what I can do, I can simply say comma 0, and here also comma 0. So it will give me some, it will replace the null with this 0, okay. Yeah, it is working fine, okay. So that's it about this lag and lead, okay, in this video, okay. So I hope I was able to cover this concept, okay. So in the next video, I will come up with some interesting SQL problem on this lag and lead. Okay. So we will meet in the next video. Okay. Till then, goodbye and thank you.